Hi guys, it's Amber again. This is episode 2 of the Sweater Look Next Time podcast. We talk about finished objects, we talk about knitting, yarn acquisitions, and then whatever I'm working on, I'll show you as well. My work in progress. So this episode, I must admit, I have a lot more finished objects than I intended to. I remember saying in the previous episode that I had intentions to reduce the number of finished objects I have, and my plan was to do that by decreasing my yarn weight. Unfortunately, that plan is falling through. I am knitting at a DK weight now, primarily. Previously, I was knitting mostly at an Aran weight or a worsted weight, and now I'm knitting mostly with DK yarn, I would say. And I'm still churning out projects faster than I ever intended to. I don't know how we came to this, but it's okay because I'm happy with all the things that I've made. I know I'm going to wear the things that I've made. They're gorgeous. Chef's kiss, really. I am so proud of the stuff that I've done this month. Though I will say I don't know why, and there was no theme intended here. I didn't create like a color scheme that I intended to go by, but most of the things that I've created this month are just brown or tan, or I don't know, they're just like very, very neutral, and I love neutrals. I just didn't realize how deeply I had delved into that hole this month. Hopefully March I will get a little back more into color, and by color I truly just mean like knit blue and green things. I am so basic about my color choices when it comes to the garments that I knit. Like I will only choose like 3 different colors, and that's brown. That's brown, green, and blue. I think we could probably go ahead and get started talking about some of the projects that I've created. We can start with my finished objects. The first thing that I want to talk about is a project that I showed in the last episode, if you've watched that, and I can link that. This is my second episode, so I'm not super sure how to do that. I think I can link it somewhere on here. But yes, I talked about it in the last episode. It's essentially just my Reformation style square neck top. I created a short sleeve version in navy blue and really loved it, and I decided to just make a long sleeve version for myself as well in a beautiful Manos del Uruguay yarn, the color Fern, I believe. This is it. It's done. It's so beautiful. It has this wonderful striping and variegation taking place on the sleeves, and it's so fluffy and fuzzy. I believe I used the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair for this, which is, I don't know if you've ever used it before, but any knitter who's used that yarn knows that it is impeccable, amazing stuff. It feels so nice. Mohair is so itchy so often, and I've had that problem with a lot of different things that I've tried, and I think it's just because I was using inferior quality stuff. But the Knitting for Olive mohair is just so nice. I will post a picture of myself wearing it like here, and you can see it just fits so perfectly. I think the long sleeve is so elegant. It looks so classy and expensive and just everything that I wanted it to be, and it really needed to be that because the amount of money that I spent on it is stupid, and I never want to do it again. And I probably will end up doing it again at some point very soon, I'm sure, just because having these garments that are so quality and handmade, and like there's so much sentimental value in them now because I've created it myself, the money ends up feeling worth it a lot of the time, and I know I'm not going to throw it away. Like the number of hours I put into this thing, of course I'm not going to throw it away. Yeah, and this is like a lace weight and a fingering weight yarn held together, so it ends up being something like a DK. And if you've knit anything in a DK or a fingering weight before, it is soul crushingly long to complete. It takes so long to finish. That being said, I didn't I mean, I didn't take that long to knit this, but that's just because I am constantly knitting. Like I'm a very restless person, so even just watching TV or watching YouTube videos, I'll be knitting. If I could walk around and knit at the same time, I would do that. But at the moment, I don't think I have that kind of dexterity yet. We're working on it. We'll work up to that at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm so happy with how this came out. The yarn is just absolutely lovely. I am in love with sage green. I always have been, and I think I always will be. It's just so elegant. But yeah, that's my first finished object. I am not sure if I will write up a pattern for it yet. This is like a self-drafted kind of thing still. I want to write a pattern for it, but I just don't. There are a few things that I'm like not really sure about, and that's like, first of all, I'm not really confident in size grading, and it would feel wrong for me to try to release a pattern where I haven't done all the work yet, and I don't know how to create the right like stitch numbers and like dimensions for a garment for like a plus sized individual or a particularly thin individual. I want to make sure that the garment fits everyone the way that it should, and I don't feel comfortable releasing a pattern unless that is the case. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. He is getting angry at another dog outside, I guess. In an ideal world, I would love to be able to release patterns and just be like a knitwear designer. However, I just don't have the experience yet to do that. I have a few patterns that I've been working on really hard and plan to release someday soon, but until I feel comfortable creating these sizes appropriately for everybody, I don't want to make people pay for that. It feels wrong. I just want to make sure that anything I put out is at the standard that I think it should be at. Okay, the next item that I have is actually a really, really fun just standard raglan style sweater made out of Drops Alpaca Boucle. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that yarn, but I showed it in my last podcast. Once again, it was one of my acquisitions that I said I was super excited to make something out of, and when I said I was excited, I meant it, because it was my very next project. This is it. It's so cute. It is the fuzziest thing ever. Like, look at it. It's like holding a teddy bear, or like, I don't know. It's basically like wearing a stuffed animal on your body. I'm absolutely in love with it, and it's so simple too. Like, the design itself is really just a folded collar, standard raglan, and you can't actually even see the raglan increases here. They're there for sure. I definitely did them, but they're pretty much invisible because the fabric is so fluffy and curly and textured that it hides pretty much anything, including mistakes and including uneven tension, which I know I had a lot of that. The yarn is just a little difficult to work with, I won't lie, because of how textured it is, but the finished product is just so worth it. I also I'm not sure why I did this. This is a foolish thing on my part, but I decided to add German short rows to it, just for some neck shaping, and the German short rows were just completely invisible to me. Like, I could not differentiate between a double stitch and just a normal stitch because of how fluffy this yarn was. I had a lot of trouble doing that, but once I got past that part, it was just straight knitting and it was fine. Even though every single stitch was invisible, I was basically knitting blind. Like, it was pretty much equivalent to like closing my eyes and just hoping for the best, but I made it through. I finished it. It looks gorgeous. It looks even better on, and I will show you right here. I'll have a picture posted of what I look like in it and how I style it. I say style it, I'm probably just gonna put jeans on it, but yeah, I feel like an absolute teddy bear wearing this, And I think I worked this with just a single strand of the Alpaca Boucle. I was surprised because the yarn itself feels quite thin, but with all of the curls and all of the texture, it does add that extra weight. So I think the needle size that was recommended for it was like a 5mm needle, which usually corresponds with like a worsted weight yarn. It worked out just fine with a 4mm needle, but it was strange knitting such a thin yarn with 4mm needles, and then it just filling up on its own with all of that extra texture and curl. But yeah, it was a great project. Loved doing it. I don't really want to work with boucle again for a while. I think I'm gonna take a back seat on that. However, I do have quite a lot of extra yarn. I don't know why I bought so much boucle. I have like 4 leftover skeins, maybe more than that, maybe 5 leftover skeins, and I just don't know what to do with them right now, because I definitely don't want to knit another project with the boucle at the moment. It was just too much trouble, and I am still like, I just want to be able to see my stitches right now, because part of the thing that I like about knitting is how mindless it can be, and how like I can just knit and move forward, and if I see a mistake, I can just, I don't know, I'll just go back and I'll fix it. This one, I could drop a stitch and not notice for like, and just not notice at all until there's a huge hole in my sweater. I think that only happened one time and I didn't have to go back too many rows, but it is so frustrating not being able to see any of your stitches. Maybe one day I'll go back to boucle. I have those extra skeins, but I don't think that that's gonna happen soon. I wouldn't even say it's gonna happen in the next few months here. They might just sit in my stash for a little bit while I try to figure out what sort of projects I could do with them. But yeah, this is my second finished object. Like I said, it's been kind of a busy month for me. Like, I've finished a lot of different projects this month, a surprising number, to be honest. I definitely did not anticipate having so many finished garments completed, but I'm pretty happy with the ones that came out. The next object that I have is one of my like most anticipated patterns that I have been wanting to do for so long now, but for some reason I just held off on it. I hadn't even bought the pattern until like the day that I started it. I've been constantly looking at pictures of other people's finished garments for this for like months on end now, and I know for any knitters who are watching this, I know you've heard of it already. It's the Sunday sweater by PetiteKnit. Of course, right? Of course I had to bring up PetiteKnit. Every knitter does. I feel like it's a rite of passage to make a PetiteKnit pattern. And this is actually my very first one. I don't know what has been holding me back, but the pattern was so good. It was so clear and easy to understand. If you're a beginner knitter, I would say this is a perfect pattern for you to start on. So the construction of it is like a circular yoke, which is, it's strange because this is also my first circular yoke pattern. It feels like such a like entry level sweater construction that for some reason I've been missing out on it, and it was so easy to do. Highly recommend it. But this is the sweater. You can't really see, I would say you can't really see too much of it just at this angle, simply because of the lighting and the yarn that I chose. I was just using some stash yarn, and that's why. The color of the yarn itself doesn't match that well with the actual mohair that I decided to match it with. I think it's actually like a faux mohair, to be honest. The main base yarn that I used was Barocco Vintage, a beautiful like beige color. I was really drawn to it because it's such a nice neutral color. And then I wanted to find a mohair that matched, but I didn't really want to spend any extra money, so I just dug in my stash to see if I had anything that might work, and I found this one kind of darker brown color from Hobbii, and I think it's called, the yarn is called Alpaca Blaze, so it's definitely like a mohair alternative. I think it has a pretty heavy acrylic mix in it, or polyamide or something like that, but synthetic fiber for sure. I don't love having so much acrylic in my garments, but being that I already have them, I just wanted to get them out of my stash and I wanted to work on them, and I was like, what better way to use them than to use them on a pattern that I have been wanting to do for so long now. And that ended up just being the Sunday sweater. It's just a really pretty combination in my opinion, even though it's not an exact match. Let me see if I can find the actual yarns that I combined together to get this color. So this is what I used. This is just a couple extra skeins that I have. I usually end up overbuying my yarn because I get scared that I'll run out. That's my toxic trait. I always overbuy yarn and just end up with a ton of stash and I don't know what to do with it. Anyways, this is the Boucle vintage yarn that I used. This is actually a wool acrylic mix. It has a pretty heavy acrylic content in this as well, so take that as you will. I don't love using acrylic, and this one does too. Heavy acrylic, a little bit of alpaca in it, but the colors are not the same. They do mesh really nicely in my opinion to this one. But yeah, if you are not familiar with the whole acrylic situation, I just don't enjoy the idea that anything that I make with it is going to just never biodegrade. It's just never gonna go away. I don't like the idea of harming the earth in that way. I would much prefer to use alternatives like 100% wool, or even just a little bit of synthetic fiber is not that bad, but the less I use, I think the better. Eventually, I would love to just completely go all the way in and completely eliminate those synthetic fibers from my collection entirely, but while they are still here, I don't want to let them go to waste. They've already been produced, I've already bought them. I would prefer not to just throw them away if possible. I'll give them the full life that I intended for them, and hopefully just learn better for the future to not buy as much acrylic. And I also want to point out that this is just my opinion, and I understand that I'm in a privileged space where I can afford to buy more completely natural fibers, and a lot of people don't have that luxury. So I would say just do what you can in terms of how you can help the environment. Just knitting alone, producing your own clothes is already helping so much. We're not contributing to the fast fashion machine, you know? We are creating our own materials. We know that these are ethically made because we're making them ourselves, right? And I think that that is just a valuable cause. And that's why I decided to start making my own clothes personally. I can't speak for everyone else, but I just think that it's so much more ethical, so much better for the environment. And I don't really intend to buy clothes at all this year if I can help it. And so far, I've been solid in that goal, other than like thrifting. I don't count thrifting, though. That's not like fast fashion. That's kind of recycled clothes, so to speak. Anyways, that was a long tangent. I just wanted to show you my Sunday sweater. I will post a picture of me wearing it right here. I'm so happy with how it looks on. It looks so much better on than it does like just being held. Being held up, it looks like an absolute strange wrinkled mess. Like, it does not look too good being held up, but once it stretches, the yoke stretches over your shoulders, it looks wonderful. And I won't lie, I did make a lot of alterations to this pattern purely out of laziness. There were some like sleeve increases that I was supposed to do that I totally ignored. I was like, I can just create a balloon. I can just create a balloon sleeve the way that I always do, which is to say straight through the sleeve and then decreasing rapidly. I also did not knit the body as long as the pattern suggested for me to. I really like a bit of a crop to my clothing. I think it's stylish. It's less to tuck into my pants because I'm usually going to tuck those sweaters into my pants anyway, and the less that I have to tuck in, the less bulky my stomach pouch is anyway, right? I am pretty pleased with how this turned out. I do actually intend to make another one of these soon, but maybe I might delve into a different PetiteKnit pattern before I do that. I've been eyeing a lot of them, like the mod tee. Oh my gosh, if I can find a picture of that, I'll also post it somewhere on the screen, maybe here. But that pattern looks so gorgeous. I love all of the detail. It looks so finished and polished. And I think that that's definitely something that I want to put on my to-do list soon. I can't tell you when I'll do it, but I know I'm going to do it this year at the very least. I decided that I wanted to make a bit of an accessory. It's been a little cold out in Northern Virginia. The weather's been fluctuating between really, really cold and then just like beautiful spring days that are like 60 degrees. So I was like, we are running out of time. Winter is almost done. I don't have much time left to knit warm accessories, and I really wanted to make this one. But I have these gloves, or mittens, I suppose. But I thought it would be so cute to have the boucle, some of the spare boucle that I had at the cuff of a mitten, and it's super, super, super fluffy. Look at that, that's so cute. And then I just, did a standard mitten for the rest of it. This is actually a pattern that I found online for free, and I think it's called the easiest mitten pattern, simplest mittens you'll ever do. I'm not sure, I can't recall, but I will link it because it's a free pattern. It's so good, it's super clear, and it's extremely easy. Like even a beginner could do this pattern. It's also applicable to every yarn weight and like a bunch of different sizes too. So you could have like a child size or like an adult large size. And you could knit it with a fingering weight yarn, or you could knit it with a chunky weight yarn, or anything in between, and it'll have directions for that. So it's extremely comprehensive. I just did this holding some yarn double. This is, like I said, the boucle is right here, and then I had some drops alpaca mix here, and then I used some of that leftover Hobbii alpaca blaze that I was talking about earlier. It's this one. I held like 4 yarns together to create this like chunkier mitten, but it looks so cute. Let me put it on. I want to preface this by saying that the first mitten that I ever made was so big, it looked like an oven mitt. Like it was huge. It was the size of my head. Extremely non-functional in terms of like mitten usage. I ended up giving it to my boyfriend, and I think they were too big even for his hands. And the worst part was that one mitten was like the size of my head, and then the other mitten was like half the size. So they weren't even equal sized mittens. They were, I mean, they worked in keeping your hands warm, but they just looked a little goofy, to be honest. But yeah, I created one accessory for the month, and this was it. And I'm really happy with how it went. But unfortunately, since I finished it, it's been pretty warm most of the time. Definitely not cold enough to warrant me wearing gloves, unfortunately. I will probably find an excuse to wear them anyway though, because they are just simply too cute for me to wait until like next fall to put them on. My last object, I know this is nuts. I've finished so much stuff this month, but my last object is a polo shirt. This is kind of more of a self-draft. I just used some basic ribbing techniques and raglan stuff, some basic intarsia as well. But I created a contrast collar and ribbing polo shirt, and it looks so good. Okay, let me see if I can make this look like adequate for the camera. It's a little wrinkly, I will not lie, and I did literally just finish knitting it like last night. But it's just a short sleeve polo shirt. It has a simple raglan design. It has a collar that's also super simple construction. I'll post a picture of myself wearing it right here so that you can see exactly what I did. And then I also did some intarsia for that V-neck area, just to create that contrast. It kind of reminds me of like a bowling shirt for some reason, but in a really good way. It looks so classy. And this is another instance where I had a ton of spare or extra stash that I bought from a while ago, like when I first started doing this, and it's acrylic yarn. And I didn't mind using it back then, which is why I have so much now, but even knitting it at the moment with these 100% acrylic yarns, I feel like I can hear it squeaking on my needles, and I can also feel it squeaking on my needles. It's like really annoying to deal with, to be honest. Yeah, the squeaking is honestly horrible to listen to in my ears. And that might just be me, that might just be a me thing. And I also use metal needles, so I don't know if that contributes to the squeaking at all. Maybe if you use bamboo needles or something else, it wouldn't do that so much. But with those metal needles, I can literally hear it and I can feel it squeaking in my hands, and it drives me absolutely nuts. So I'm really happy to be done. I'm really happy to be done making this, but it's so cute, and I 100% will be making another one of these. I did a double folded sleeve, so it's a little puffy. It's really, really cute, and it's the first time I've ever done this in one of my designs before, and it looks really finished and it looks really polished, and I just enjoy it. So most likely I will be implementing that in future designs as well. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And that, I think, covers all of the finished objects that I have for the month. I can't believe that I made this much still. It's so many projects. But I enjoy knitting, and I knit all the time, so it only makes sense that I have this many finished projects. I mean, I've even woven all the ends in on all these projects, which is even more shocking. So they really are done projects. But with that, I think we can go ahead and move into my current work in progress. I mentioned this in my previous podcast as well. So I have this beautiful green yarn, dropped brushed alpaca silk, and it is absolutely lovely. It's the richest, most beautiful gem tone green, greenish tealish color. I am having such a wonderful time using it right now. It is basically, it feels like a just slightly thicker mohair, honestly. I could see myself using, pairing this with a more, standard yarn base, and just using this as a mohair alternative for sure. It's super fluffy, it's super soft, and I haven't worked with it too much yet. I only cast it on today. Actually, I cast it on this morning, but I've been working on creating this. So the plan for this, I don't have a pattern. I'm just kind of self-drafting this. I say self-drafting, it's more like winging it. I'm winging it. But I'm creating, I think, a bottom-up kind of sweater at the moment. So I'm creating a bottom-up kind of crew neck, kind of puffy sleeved look. I can post some of my inspiration right here, like a vision board of sorts, I guess. But yeah, I have such a vision for this. I really hope it turns out. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm going to be using some short rows in this pattern as well, and after working with that boucle yarn and not being able to see my short rows, I am a little bit nervous with this one. It's just so fluffy, and it's hard to see each individual stitch again, and I really don't want to have a hard time working with it. But I think my vision for the project is just so clear, and I want it to look good, and I think I can do it. So if it gives me trouble, I think it'll be worth pushing through for the finished object. But I think I mentioned this previously. I am a monogamous knitter. I do not knit more than one project at a time. I do not have multiple works in progress. I only have the one. This is super controversial for some reason. A lot of people do not enjoy knitting in this manner, but I just find that I'm more relaxed when I have this. I have a hard time focusing on multiple things at once. So if I can just narrow my focus down on one project, I can get through it very, very easily. And obviously I have no issues finishing that project. For the most part, if I hone in on something, I don't like to abandon my projects either. So I don't have languishing whips. I just finish my projects, or I decide I don't like it and I frog it. And I've only ever done that one time before, so it's a pretty rare occurrence. Yeah, so when I decide that I'm sure about making a garment, I am sure about making that garment. I will finish it. Ultimately though, I knit enough to where the dedication that I need to put into something is not absurd. Like, I only knit it for like a week or a week and a half, and usually by then I'll be finished with the garment. I don't think it's that much of a commitment personally. I just cast on. I'm barely done with the ribbing. You can see it's a little bit see-through. I think that's part of the charm. But yeah, it's super, super fluffy. As you can see, the yarn itself is pretty dang fluffy as well. The light is just not capturing the way that it looks in person. And I blame that on my camera, but I just am using my phone right now. So that would probably explain why it looks so, the color looks so off. Highly recommend the yarn though. You'll notice that I buy a lot of drops yarn, and that's just because it's so cheap and affordable, and I don't have the budget to buy like luxury yarns all the time. Like, I wish I could be the person who has an entire stock of hand-dyed yarns that I can just dig through and use for all of my projects, and, you know, support those local businesses and small businesses and dyers. But I just don't have that kind of money. One day maybe, but for now I kind of want to stick to using those natural fibers, and the best way for me to do that is to use drops. I ordered them from Wool Warehouse, which is, I think it ships from the UK. Surprisingly, the shipping is super fast. Like, I think it took under a week to get to me. If you're worried about paying like customs and everything, I personally did not have to. I live in Northern Virginia, and it was no issue for me to get it. And it was truly very cheap in my opinion, like only a few dollars for each skein. Like, I think this was only $3 or $4 for this whole thing of yarn here. Maybe less than $4. But yeah, I'm able to buy more of my yarn in bulk as a result, and I only need a few of them. So the garments that I can make using drops yarn could easily be under $30, which is like super budget and wallet friendly. I need that kind of thing if I'm knitting as much as I do and not using acrylic at the same time. I think now we can go into my acquisitions, the things that I've recently bought. I will not lie to you, I did buy more than I intended to. I just have a lot of projects that I want to do, and I wanted to get the yarn for them. One rule that I have is to make sure that I do not buy yarn if I don't have a vision for it already. That's one very explicit goal that I made for myself in the beginning of the year. I used to buy a lot of yarn just thinking this is beautiful and I'm sure I can figure out what to do with it. But now I buy yarn knowing exactly what project I want to complete with it. The first yarn that I got was Drops Air. It is a blown yarn, so it has so it says it has baby alpaca and merino wool. I think there's a bit of polyamide in it. Yeah, there's a little bit of polyamide in it as well, but it's a very, very lightweight yarn. absolutely beautiful. And it's about this thick, if you can kind of tell. So like a worsted weight for sure. It looks almost blue right now, but the color itself is actually called sage green. I will be making the My Favorite Things knitwear sweater number 18 with it. I am so excited to do it. It is so beautiful. The garment itself is like super big, like it's so oversized, like chunky, baggy, and I think it's just going to be the most comfortable thing to wear ever. And the texture on it is insane. I'm so excited. I'll stick a picture of it right here, but I'm absolutely going to be making this like very, very, very soon. If not this week, then next week. But I'm gonna use the Drops Air with it. I bought a sweater quantity of another yarn to pair with it. I mentioned earlier that I got Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk, and I could see myself pairing it with another yarn just because it is very similar to like they're like a mohair, like almost like a Knitting for Olive mohair. It's just thicker. So I did actually do that. I got I think this is also sage green. They're not quite the same color, but they're pretty dang close. So I think they're gonna look so good together on this sweater number 18. A lot of people have been doing it in like neutral colors and stuff like that, and I think it looks beautiful that way. But most of my wardrobe is like I said, is green or blue. So I'm probably gonna keep it that way. I have not swatched them together yet, but I can just kind of tell already that I'm going to like it, and I'm not concerned about that at all. Like I am going to go forward with this color combination. One thing that's interesting about the Drops Air though is that like it has a lot of shifting in the actual tone of the yarn. You can kind of see some parts of it are lighter than others and some parts of it are darker than others, and I think that's going to make a lot of interesting texture, like visual texture in the sweater itself as well. I think I will get started very, very soon, and I'll try to take progress pictures along the way, and you can check those out on my Instagram if I do post them. My name is pretty much the same as the one I have here on YouTube. It's just Sweater Luck Next Time. Along with the last order that I got of the Drops Air and Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I suddenly forgot how to say it. I also got some Drops Lima in white. This is for another project that I have in mind. I am not sure when I'm going to have the time to do it, but I do intend to do it at some point in March, hopefully, if I have the time. I think it's going to be inspired based on another Reformation top that I've seen that I think is absolutely gorgeous. And I'll like, I don't know, I'll show you guys in the next episode, I suppose. It's really super conceptual now. I've pretty much just drawn it out. I've done a little bit of math for it, but creating patterns from scratch is like surprisingly difficult to do, and there's a surprising amount of math that I need to do for it. So a lot of it is just me like laying in bed at night before I go to bed, thinking about different ways I'm going to achieve a certain shape, or like, I don't know, how I'm going to bind off in a nice way, or how to create a really nice finished edge on some section or another. And I think that's going to be the process with this yarn. I've already taken a ton of notes, and I'm still not really sure how I'm going to do this. So I think it'll be my most ambitious project. I think I'm gonna end up working on it and then frogging it and then working on it and then frogging it like a ton of times, but I think that's just how the pattern making process goes. I have one last section for the yarn acquisitions that I want to show you. I'm super excited about this as well. So there is a local to me yarn store that I love to go to. It's called Fiberspace in Alexandria, Virginia, and it is the cutest place you've ever seen. Please check it out. They're a beautiful store, absolutely amazing, and their stock is wonderful. And then even better, sometimes they hold these like amazing sales with yarns that are like so deeply discounted but like such good quality. One of the sales that they held actually was a couple weeks ago, and I went there with my sisters and I got so much good yarn. I only got enough for one garment. I plan on making a cardigan number 7 with it. I can post a picture of it here just so you can see what it looks like. And I had this idea for just like a gorgeous maroon cardigan that I could wear, basically almost like a shirt. Like I could wear something underneath it, but I'd button it all the way down so that it looks like just like a shirt, and I could just wear it out like that. But it's this beautiful maroon color and Boucle Arno, which is a cotton and merino wool mix. It is, I would say, like a worsted weight as well, a little bit thin in my opinion, but I also got the got a mohair to pair with it. It is from Miss Babs, Inspired by Nature Moon Glow lace yarn, and it is a mohair silk blend, and oh my gosh, is it pretty. It's this gorgeous red color. Pairing them together I think is going to be absolutely beautiful. And I think I definitely have enough of this yarn to make it through the whole project. I like a lot of my things a lot more cropped than most patterns say, so a lot of the time I don't need quite as much yarn as they suggest that I do. In this case, I really hope that's the case, because I'm not sure if they have more of this yarn available, and I really don't want to have to try to track it down. Dye lots and tracking all of that down is very stressful for me. I'd rather just buy all of that yarn at once, and this is why, like I mentioned earlier, my toxic trait is overbuying yarn. It's because I'm scared of encountering a scenario where I have not bought enough. I think in this case I'll be good though. I really want to make that cardigan number 7. It's a thicker cardigan. I think this will help. I think this will get me to meet gauge, and if it doesn't, I don't really care that much. Like, I'm not a very good gauge swatcher in the sense that I choose not to do it most of the time. I think that's because I knit mostly my own patterns. Like, I just self-draft everything, so I don't really worry about like stitch count that often, but I know that that's not everybody's experience, and a lot of people really value gauge swatching, so I'm not saying not to do that. Please gauge swatch all of your projects. Do not be like me. I am a toxic knitter. I'm bad. Do not follow my example. Please gauge swatch your projects. That being said, I'm not that worried. I think I'll meet gauge. I'm probably gonna do a size up anyway, so I prefer my clothes to be baggy. I prefer extremely baggy clothes. So if this garment comes out super huge because I decided not to gauge swatch, I'm not gonna be hurt. If it comes out like form fitting, I'm not gonna be hurt either. Like, I don't think it's gonna matter regardless. I'll just be happy to have it and wear this beautiful color against my skin. And that's the loosey-goosey kind of thinking that gets you in trouble, but I'm going to be rolling with it anyway. That is all that I have to talk about today. I've been talking for almost an hour now. Can you believe it? I just had so much to say. I just had so many things to show you guys and so much to say, and I am extremely excited about all the things that I got and all the things that I created. I haven't blocked them yet, so I'm going to do that, especially the ones that are mostly wool, but I think they're gonna come out so they're beautiful now, but they're gonna come out so much better after they've been blocked. And I have this really nice wool wash that's like, it's from Soak. It's called Pineapple Grove, and it smells so good, absolutely luxurious. It smells like it's Pineapple Grove. It smells like pineapple, but it's delightful. Yeah, and I love smelling my garments afterwards. I can't help myself. Like, in the middle of the day, I'll just notice myself going like, and it smells like pineapple, and it's wonderful. That is all that I have for you. I am so excited to show you guys what I have next, what I have coming up, what I'm planning on creating, the yarns that I'm sure I will be buying in the next month. Honestly, this is like the hardest part of the video because I don't know how to say bye. Please remember to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to check out my Instagram. I'm Sweater Look Next Time, just like I am here. I'll leave my handle, but if you forget, I have the same YouTube name as I do on Instagram. And please feel free to comment on my YouTube video. Feel free to contact me on Instagram or leave a message or comment on any of my Instagram pictures. I'd be so happy to see you over there. And yeah, thank you for supporting me and thank you for watching my video. If you lasted this long, I'm genuinely very impressed with you and really, really, really grateful. I appreciate you. Thank you. I am so happy that you're here and I'll see you next time. Bye.